I happen to like this topic a lot because it's I have a personal vendetta about it. It's how you overcome in your family the negative effects of computers, TV, and video games. And it's not that I don't like those. It's just that if you read in the literature about healthy child development, you'd discover some of the following things. The amount of television watching time per family, average family, is increased from 3 to about 4 hours per day. Secondly, that the average time a dad spends on a one-on-one basis with a child is about 7 minutes a week. And it's less for younger children. And if you take a look at just the content itself, and you were saying, gee, if we're going to assess the effects of kids in terms of just the content that they're watching in video games or something else, we are sexualizing our kids. We are creating a variety of kinds of images about how people treat other people, and in some instances we're desensitizing them long before they are adults. So when teenagers, for example, many teenagers have access to text messaging. What that does is create an opportunity for them to communicate without any supervision because they're not using the phone in a public place. It would be surprising to you to see how often and how quickly they are sexually explicit messages that are being texted from one person to another. And 13-year-olds, we could tell you of many cases where parents don't even know this is going on, and sometimes the policeman shows up and says, I'm here to press charges because charges being pressed because your son or your daughter is sending these kinds of explicit messages and invitations to a minor. But the most difficult of all, in my opinion, is this: that if you read about moral development, where kids learn a sense of right and wrong and the ability to regulate themselves so they don't hurt other people, and said, where do they come from? Where does that come from? Well, for years and years, people thought that it came from just brain growth. You know, you just matured and you got better and so on. It's not true. It comes from high-quality interpersonal experience. So if you cut down on social interaction opportunities inside your family, for instance, what you're doing is reducing the possibility for them to pick up these social skills and the social skills that translate into moral behavior and the formation of conscience. So if you were, say, a public school who receives the children that come from families where the technology and the use of technology is increased, they can tell you right away the following: that more children are coming to school unprepared to meet the social demands of the classroom. More kids are being sent to the resource program, not for learning problems, but for conduct problems. And the conduct problems are more extreme. That is, the teachers are having to battle. It would be good if you had a degree in your teaching subject and a degree in social work or something else so that you could deal with what the teachers are facing, because there are significant issues, big issues that are starting to show up. And you take a look at anywhere else, and the quality of mental and emotional abilities that a lot of our children deal with are stimulated or promoted by virtue of the fact that they are absent the emotional skills that come from high-quality relationship experiences. And for instance, we are still staggered by the fact that suicide is the number 3 cause of death for adolescent children in the United States. And suicide is a form of behavior that means that I don't know how to succeed, or I haven't succeeded in high-quality relationship experiences. Very high % of adolescent suicides occur after a relationship is ended that was important to them. And they don't know how to deal with that. So what do you do to compensate for that? Well, you probably ought to start a program in your family to teach the positive use of technology. There are a lot of really positive uses. So you make sure that you and your kids use it for that reason. 2, of course, and obviously everybody has heard this, you do not let the possibility of at-risk conditions like a computer to be in a room with a child alone ever. You'd have to be a little technologically minded to appreciate how predatory the purveyors of pornography are. and all you have to do is download something or misspell something, see, and they will come and be there. And how fast can you become influenced or addicted to some form of pornography? It only takes one exposure for some people. So you'd make sure that happened, and then here's what you do: you take a look at how you organize your family and your family time, and the family time especially together. Take a look especially at meal time. Rutgers University just reported that families that had meals together 3 times a week, their children in higher grades were less likely to use drugs and other kind of chemical addictors, and so on. And all they did different than the other families was they had family meals together. So they got together and talked and visited and so on. And you also can shut off the television and the computer games and so on, and sort of force feed everybody in your family to actually spend time together, learning to play games, talking, visiting, and so on. One of the things that happens if you do that is that the members of your family become much closer friends. And so everybody begins to feel like, well, I belong to something, see, that really matters, that's important. Now, lastly, you have to start a very active program teaching moral concepts, because they're not getting it in a lot of other places. In school, for example, they are prevented by law from teaching much about right or wrong. They work hard they have value-free education, which is sort of an oxymoron, because if you educate, you're sending a value of some kind. But anyway, they work really hard to do that, profess to do that, and it's a bind for most teachers. So, for example, if we were teaching about sexual development, you couldn't say much about what is good or what is bad. You'd have to treat most things fairly. But at home, see, you can say, no, here's what this is, and here's what that is, and here's what's important, and here's why, and here's what the consequences are. And you actually load into your family, see opportunities to teach about moral concepts. And lastly, take a look at where you spend your time. Fathers and mothers offer unique things to their children. Both are really important. And it is not true that a man can be away from his kids an excessive amount of time, and the mothers can teach all the things the kids need. That is not true. Kids do a whole lot better when they have 2 parents, and they benefit from the positive contributions of parents of both genders. Thanks.